The dogs were trained to kill on command, silent, precise, obedient. But when they formed a perfect circle around the girl in the middle of a blood-stained hallway, they didn't attack. They waited, and then she raised one trembling hand. Just one small, strange gesture, and what happened next made every soldier in the room forget how to breathe. The Blackthorn Orphanage had been shut down for over 20 years. Locals whisper about strange disappearances and government vans seen entering the premises at odd hours. When a static-laced emergency transmission was picked up by a nearby military station, screaming, barking, then silence, a tactical unit was dispatched to investigate. No one expected much. Probably just vandals, maybe squatters. But when they arrived, the front gates had been forced open from the inside. Inside the orphanage, the air was dense with decay and mold, but something more too, a quiet pressure like the atmosphere before a storm. The team moved through the halls in tight formation. Their boots crunched over shattered glass and broken toys. Graffiti covered walls, but not the usual kind. Symbols, circles with eyes. Names scratched repeatedly into paint. Always the same one. Her. The surveillance room was still operational, inexplicably drawing power despite the disconnected grid. A looping video played on a cracked monitor. Grainy black and white footage of the playroom. Empty at first, then static. Then a small girl appearing suddenly at the center, barefoot and pale, standing still. The timestamp glitched every time she looked at the camera. Following the layout, the team reached the recreation hall. The moment the doors opened, every weapon was raised, but no shots were fired. There she was, a little girl in a white dress, barely 9 years old, stood alone in the center of the room. Surrounding her were 6 large K9 dogs, forming a perfect circle. All were pure black Belgian Malinois, elite military breeds, trained for urban combat. Each one had a different serial number tattooed into its flank, and each was from a different base. All reported missing over the past 2 years. None of the dogs barked. None growled. They simply stared. "Stand down," whispered the unit's commander, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. His instincts told him this wasn't a standoff. It was a test. Suddenly, one of the dogs growled, not at the team, but towards something or someone behind the girl. The soldiers scanned the room, but saw nothing, only shadows stretching toward them like fingers. Then the lights flickered, and the girl smiled before anyone could speak or move. The girl lifted her right hand, not in fear, not in surrender. It was deliberate, a slow, eerie motion, like she had done it countless times before. Her small fingers twisted into a strange shape, almost like a sigil. Not a wave, not a signal anyone recognized. It felt ancient. Immediately, the dogs reacted. The same K9 as trained to charge at gunfire, to obey human commands without hesitation, suddenly whimpered. One by one, they lowered their heads. Another crouched down like it was facing its alpha. The most aggressive one, the one who had just growled, collapsed entirely, belly to the floor, paws trembling. The soldiers froze, staring in disbelief. No command had been given, no whistle, no handler. The girl's eyes never left the space behind the team, as if something else was in the room, something only she and the dogs could see. "What the hell is this?" murmured Corporal Dinesh, finger tightening on his trigger. "They're submitting to her?" "No," whispered the commander. "They're protecting her from us." And then came the vibration. It began in the soles of their boots, a deep, pulsing hum that felt like it came from the bones of the building. The hanging lights above began to sway. One cracked, another shattered. The room grew colder, but the kind of cold that seemed to come from inside the chest, not the air. Then a sound, not a voice in the usual sense, not a growl either. It was between the walls and under the floor, a layered, whispering chorus of something speaking in unison from beneath the surface. The youngest soldier, Pike, clutched his helmet. "Do you guys hear that? It's saying her name, over and over." But no one had said her name. No one even knew her name. Still holding the same hand gesture, the girl turned slowly, mechanically, like a puppet being pulled by invisible threads. Her mouth never moved, but voice echoed through the walls again. "She remembers. She commands. She is ours. And for the first time, every dog in the room barked, not at her, but toward the soldiers. Whatever she'd summoned wasn't over. It was just beginning the silence after the barking was deafening. Then, slowly, as if moved by an invisible hand, a panel of the wall behind the girl began to shift. The sound was faint but unnatural, like metal grinding against bone. A previously unseen steel door emerged from the wood, sealed with rusted bolts and military-grade locks that had already been undone. No one had touched it. The girl turned toward the door. She didn't speak. Her eyes, glassy and deep as wells, were locked on the entrance like it had been calling her, and somehow answering. The K9s stepped aside in unison, positioning themselves between the soldiers and the door. Every muscle in their bodies was tensed, not in threat, but in warning. Still, Sergeant Lee ignored the signs. He was the skeptic, the practical one. We have to know what's in there. He stepped forward. The moment he touched the steel, a low, guttural screech reverberated through the walls, like metal screaming. The dog snapped at the air, trying to block him, but it was too late. The door cracked open with a hiss, and a blast of air so cold and foul it made the others gag poured out. Inside was no room, no cellar, just blackness, thick, writhing, alive. Sergeant Lee screamed as his body stiffened mid-step. For a brief second, his silhouette was pulled into the void, not falling but sinking. The door slammed shut behind him with a final, echoing clang. The girl finally turned to face the soldiers. Her eyes glowed faintly now, an unnatural pale blue, like something looking through her. She tilted her head, and with a voice not quite her own, she spoke. They made the mistake of teaching them to hunt me. Now they protect me. She walked slowly toward the K9s, who parted to let her through. As she passed each one, it whimpered softly and bowed its head. The commander couldn't move. No one could. They weren't paralyzed by force, but by fear, ancient fear. She paused at the exit, placed a hand gently on one dog's head, and whispered, "Come." All 6 followed, and before disappearing into the hallway's shadows, she turned back and said, "There are others like me. They've already awakened." Then she was gone. And the lights never turn on again, this story serves as a chilling reminder that power beyond understanding cannot be caged, trained, or weaponized. The military tried to turn living creatures into tools of obedience, but in doing so, they triggered something far older and far more dangerous, a force that doesn't follow orders, but remembers who gave them. In the end, true power doesn't bark or bite, it waits and chooses when to speak.